Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. Our topic is Sustainability Series Part 2, Meeting Facilitation. My name is Hannah Smith. I'm a health educator at Hamilton County Public Health, working with We Thrive Communities on the initiative, and I'm happy to be presenting this with you today. A few housekeeping rules. There is a chat box on the left-hand side of your screen. Feel free to write down or type in any questions you may have. I'll definitely address those at the end, and we'll have plenty of time for additional questions. So let's go ahead and get started without further ado. So our outline for today looks like this. First, we're going to define meeting facilitation. What is it and why is it important? Then we're going to look at certain techniques or examples on the local level, especially with some of our We Thrive communities, to see how this can apply to your community, because we really want this webinar to be a tool for you to use and apply to your We Thrive teams, or hopefully get a We Thrive team started in your community. So that's what we'll be covering today. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this topic. What is meeting facilitation? A facilitator can be defined easily as one who makes things easy. It could be someone who coordinates and organizes small groups or teams to stay on track, and someone who leads meetings. The facilitator serves as a coordinator and organizer of small groups and ensures that everyone is participating and staying on track. So it's really like the team lead and the facilitator of these groups. And when you're a facilitator, it's critical to have the capacity to develop mutual respect among the group members in order to maximize the learning experience. So you really want to have someone that has the skills, the passion, and the capacity to really lead others and really get people motivated around a certain cause. A facilitator must be willing to take risks and be a hard worker. I think that goes without saying. But what a facilitator does is plan, guide, and manage a group or event to ensure that the group's objectives are being met effectively with clear thinking, good participation from everyone. You really want to make sure that the team is inclusive to all points of view, and you really want the facilitator to have a full buy-in from everyone involved. So even if someone's passion or interest may not directly tie into a project, it's really important for that facilitator to jot down what they said, really acknowledge what that person said, and tell them that while that's not a project we may be working on right now, we'll definitely keep that into consideration as we work on this project throughout the years. So really a facilitator is going to be that welcoming individual that really is responsible for creating group process and creating an environment where people can thrive, grow, and help each other in the group reach a successful decision, solution, or conclusion, whatever that may be. So this is what you don't want during a meeting. This is a great photo from the TV show The Office, but it really exemplifies what can go wrong if a meeting facilitator isn't on track or organized, or if people really just don't feel welcome. So what you see here is someone looks bored. There's people kind of giving them an eye roll, looking frustrated, angry. This is not what we want to do. We want to create an environment that includes everyone and really makes people want to be involved in an initiative. This is a better picture of what you would like to see for a good meeting facilitation. As you can see on the right there, that's a photo from one of our ambassador trainings here at the health department. We have some community folks as well as some staff members that we were training. And as you can see here, people are working hard. They seem engaged in the topic. Some people are even seen pondering what's being discussed, maybe still look a little bored, but really involved in the initiative and the task at hand. And that's really what we want, is people to be actively thinking and working on the goals for their community or for their project. Meeting facilitation really assists with organization, structure, and leadership and goals. We'll go into these a little bit more in depth, but in order to facilitate effectively, you must be objective or be goal-oriented. Being a facilitator requires a different skill set that may require problem-solving, decision-making, team management, and communication. This, in turn, can create organization because everybody's on the same page and everybody is equally a part of this decision-making process. A good facilitator can really round up people's ideas and really come to a good consensus that everyone can agree on. Good facilitation can be the difference between success and failure of a project. So this really is important. It can mean the rise or fall of a project. So you really want people to be engaged and not bored, angry, or frustrated, as we said before. So let's go into these three topic areas a little bit more in depth. We'll start with organization. Organization is so important to meeting facilitation because it assists with that strategic plan for your group, if you will. People are being convened for a specific reason at a certain time, at a certain place. So when it comes to scheduling, that's really important. Hosting meetings requires scheduling, obviously. Meetings should not conflict with other important community meetings or happenings, such as council meetings or special events. These meetings should accommodate most stakeholders, partners, or members within a team in terms of timing and location. So you really want to make sure that it's a central location that everybody is aware of, or they have the address, and it's not way out of their way. Because again, we want this to be convenient and easy for people to be involved. Evening meetings often work for individuals who have full-time jobs. Having those, make sure that people will be there because they might not be able to meet during the day because they're busy at work. However, if it's an internal meeting with an organization or staff, earlier meetings may be better. It really just depends on who you're working with, what the project is, and what you want to accomplish. Ultimately, it's up to the team and the participating members to make these decisions based on their schedules and availability. You can even send out a doodle poll for interested people to see what works best for everyone's schedule. So Doodle, it's a website. I'll show you an example here on the next slide, but it's really just a good way to ask people to state their preference for meetings. It also helps to have consistent meetings once members have given feedback on their availability. So for example, if a meeting is held on the first Monday of the month at the same time, people are more likely to remember that meeting and will be more willing to attend those on the third Thursday or Monday of the month at a specific time. It really helps them create a routine and allows them to easily mark that on their calendars. It also helps to send meeting invites to participating team members if people have internet access or email. People can accept or reject those meeting invites, and then it's already letting the facilitator know who will be present. You're also going to want to have agendas and sign-in sheets for your meetings. Agendas serve as an outline for the meeting and really categorizes the topics to ensure there's time for discussion on each topic. It also goes into this overall theme of organization. Agendas often state the next meeting date, allowing members to mark their calendars or suggest an alternative date as well. Meeting minutes are another really important part of meeting facilitation because they serve as a tool to summarize what was discussed or decided at the meeting. Having meeting minutes sent out to the team for review allows edits to be made and keeps the project fresh in people's minds. So if you have someone who's a note taker, they're able to go back to their office or to home, type up those notes, and send them out within a week typically to members. That way, if you need to get something done by the end of the month, people will be able to read those minutes, know what's their task, and be able to accomplish it by the deadline. Minutes can be sent via email, as I just said, or posted on a community website, or they can even be stored on a computer or Google Drive for record. A lot of times we require meeting minutes and sign-in sheets as part of the We Thrive recognition to make sure that you are indeed meeting and taking notes and really engaging your community. But it can also be used as the team's records or your personal records to see what did we discuss last year at that one date and really clarify what you've worked on in the past or what you said you wanted to work on in the future. Again, this allows the necessary people to view the documents at their leisure and really communicates the tactic at hand. Communication is so important for meeting facilitation as well. Transparent communication with individuals before, during, and after meetings is essential to successful meeting facilitation. Making sure documents, emails, or other information is sent to all team members is really important to keep everyone in the loop. The last thing you want to do is to have one team member not feel included, not know what's going on, and then there be confusion among the group. Obviously, you may have new members that come in, but it's really important that you get everybody up to speed on the projects at hand. A really good way to keep track of who's at your meetings is having a roster or an email group that tracks everyone's contact information and keeps it in one place. So this can be people's names, people's email addresses, or phone numbers. Typically, those are the best ways to reach people. Communication should not be limited to one platform, though, because not everybody has the same things. A lot of times we assume that everybody has internet access, but not everybody uses email. So it's really important to make sure that the communication is sent however the team decides is the best way. So it could still be emails, or it could be texting, it could be phone calls, in-person meetings. Even Facebook Messenger is a great tool. Maybe people want to do everything via Google Docs. You know, it really just depends on what works well for the group, and you're really going to want to have that feedback to make sure that you're meeting everyone's needs. Meeting facilitation should always end with action items and follow-up. That might be the most important thing here because you really want to stay on top of your projects and make sure that they come to fruition. And that means following through with the next steps. Sending out action items or next steps in the meeting minutes or even on the agenda keeps team members on track and keeps them responsible for the tasks that they said they would do. You do not want to discourage people by being unorganized or lackluster with your follow-up items because you want people to be involved. Again, the more robust your team is, the more individuals involved, the better the outcomes are going to be. Proper organization can motivate individuals and really help the sustainability of projects, and that's really what we want. Meeting minutes also serve as a great reminder for follow-up work. We mentioned that before, how useful meeting minutes can be, but it's really essential to follow up with the additional steps to walk the walk and gain the trust of team members as you continue to keep the momentum and build that momentum for the initiative moving forward. The worst thing is to tell someone you're going to follow up with them and then you don't. It really just shows that you don't mean what you say. And so we really want to be leaders. We want to practice what we preach. And sometimes that means we might need reminders. You know, we're all humans. We're not perfect. But really just an email reminder or really just a touch base can let people know if they are behind on something to make sure that they get it done eventually or whenever that project is needed. So here's just an example of an agenda here on the right from a We Thrive Community Learning Collaborative that we did. It's a little blurry, but as you can see, it states the initiative's logo at the top, so we know what we're being convened for. It says the time, the date, the location, and then it has kind of the action items of the meeting. So you have welcome and introductions, which is really important. I really encourage teams, especially as new members come on board or if your team is just being formed, to do icebreakers or introductions to really make sure everyone feels welcome at the meeting. Again, to make it as inclusive as possible. And then it just has other action items, other things that are presented or talked about. And it actually doesn't have the next meeting date, but if you had a team meeting, it's typically good to have that on there or to decide that by the end of the meeting. To the left here is an example of a doodle poll that I mentioned before. Again, this is just a easy program you can find online where it basically asks people what their availability is. You type in your name and just select what time works best for you. Then the meeting facilitator can gather those responses and go with the date that works for the majority of people. So again, I know that these may seem just like simple items that, you may already know about or you may not think it's that important, but it's really going to make the process run smoothly and be highly effective and organized. Now on to the structure, leadership, and goals aspect of meeting facilitation. Once you have a meeting space and location and you have your agenda, you're really going to want to designate a chair or other roles within the group. So this can be for a new team, or if a team is kind of being restructured, or if you want to kind of change roles on an annual basis or every 2 years. Again, whatever works best for the community. But you're really going to want people to be involved based on their interests and their passions. And so people may want to be involved at different levels, and that's completely okay. Allowing team members to work on projects that interest them or fulfill roles that highlight their skills or passions will enrich the initiative and really make people feel more comfortable. This isn't to say that people should not step outside their comfort zone or not try a new role, but especially when you're getting started, if people want to work on a certain thing, allow them to do that. Designating a chair, it can be easy or it can be difficult if you don't have a group of members that want to be that leader or that facilitator for the group. You might have to vote on it. This could be very informal among the team members, or you might have someone that's an obvious leader and volunteers to do it. Again, it's up to the community. But designating those roles will really help, because if you have a chair who's acting as a facilitator, they can send out those meeting reminders, the agendas, meeting minutes, etc. With that being said, you also want to appoint a note taker. We talked about the importance of meeting minutes and really keeping people on track and documenting what was said in a meeting, but having a note taker will allow the facilitator to do their job while that note taker is busy writing everything down. It doesn't have to be the same note taker for every meeting. You can just ask people to volunteer once the meeting starts. And you're also going to want to identify your priority areas and objectives. So this can be used by looking at data provided by the health department or survey responses. With our community health assessment, we do the community voice surveys, asking people what they see as the most important health and safety issues of their community. Or it can really just be driven by the team's interests. If the data doesn't support that, a project that a team wants to work on, but they're adamant about that and it fits within the guidelines of We Thrive, go ahead. We're going to support what the community wants to do. You're also going to want to delegate and divide tasks or focus areas. Much like you were designating roles, you'll want to divide tasks based on the team members' interests and the needs at hand. You may find that people in the group have different interests. They don't all want to work on the same thing, and that's okay. If that's the case in your community, you can create kind of subgroups or subcommittees within the initiative depending on the topic area. So people may form these subgroups or these subcommittees, and they might meet on their own separate from another team, but maybe if they are meeting separately, maybe representatives from each team can meet quarterly to discuss what's going on with the initiative and see how they can collaborate further. Finally, we talked about this before, but follow-through is really, really, really important. Again, you want to walk the walk and really do what you say you're going to do. Follow-up is important and may require additional emails, meetings, or phone calls with certain individuals to achieve an action step. As we said before, reminders can be really helpful since people are juggling a lot of things at once. Some people have full-time jobs, they're just involved with We Thrive as a volunteer, but it also might be part of someone's job description. So you really just want to make sure that that follow-through is happening, and it may require some reminders. It's not to say that people are unorganized if they're a little behind in achieving their homework, if you will, but it's really just good to keep that communication transparent, again. So if you are struggling or if you are getting behind, just let the team know, and we can go on to the next step. Again, sending out meeting minutes to the team before a meeting also serves as a reminder and can kind of poke people to really get on those action items that they said they were going to do. So here are some good examples of We Thrive communities and kind of some techniques that they use for their meeting facilitation. And these are all different ones. These are just 3 examples. It's not to compare them or rate them, but they're all doing great things, but in a little different way. They have a little bit different structure. So first we'll start with Amberley Village. Again, it's a We Thrive community, but they are working on the environmental health pathway right now. And it worked out nicely for Amberley Village because they already have an existing environmental stewardship committee, or as we call it for short, ESC. And the ESC ties in nicely with We Thrive because it became their team for the environmental health pathway. It was an existing team that had a focus area and passion for environmental health, so it was just a natural fit that they would become the We Thrive team. Again, they were an existing committee prior to We Thrive, prior to joining the initiative, but since it was already formed, We Thrive tied nicely into its structure. ESC's action plan helped organize the Environmental Stewardship Committee's goals and really created a succinct timeline for their projects. That's some feedback we've heard from them, that it really helps organize their tasks for the next 2 years that they want to work on. The ESC also divides their objectives amongst team members, so each person is responsible for a specific task or topic area. Again, that just means that they're kind of the boots on the ground, making those phone calls, really doing the planning for certain events or whatever it may be, and they report back to the team. It doesn't mean that they're the only ones working on it. Obviously, we want all of the team members involved, but when they come back to the team with their ideas, with their progress reports or updates, it's really going to allow other team members to give feedback and really assist them with making it better and really having it as a team effort. Another example is the city of Mount Healthy. Again, a We Thrive community, but Mount Healthy has a chair who's very involved with meeting facilitation, and she sends out email reminders, Facebook events, or for meetings or certain special events going on within the community, and this information is also posted on the city's website and calendar. So Mount Healthy did a really good job because they tied We Thrive into kind of the administrative jobs with the city already. So it's part of someone's job description, they're actively working on it, and it allows her to do it as part of her job duties. And that's really helpful because, again, the structure supports the initiative. Having someone who can send out the meeting reminders, creating Facebook groups and other social media campaigns, having that be part of someone's job description makes it a lot easier. But again, we realize that's not going to be possible for every single community, but it does work really well in Mount Healthy. Last but not least is our example of the Village of Woodlawn, our third We Thrive community for this example. And sometimes meeting facilitation can be a shared process We talked about having a meeting facilitator be the lead, really convening people, but it doesn't have to be necessarily on one individual to be the leader of the group. The Village of Woodlawn does a great job of utilizing our partnership with Hamilton County Public Health, their partnership rather, with We Thrive, and their meetings work a little bit differently, where the health educator and the co-chair work together to facilitate meetings, which works nicely for their team. So we both kind of share responsibility with meeting minutes, agendas, and sign-in sheets, because you really want to know who's coming to your meeting and really having people's contact information. And so really doing it together has worked nicely in Woodlawn. So that's how we have been doing things there. And those are just 3 examples. You know, your team might not fit into these 3 categories, and that's completely fine. These are just, again, examples to give you some ideas of ways you can have meeting facilitation and be successful. Again, I really want to stress that every community is different, and this is going to look different in every single community. There's going to be similarities, of course, but that's why it's a great idea to come to our We Thrive Learning Collaboratives that happen on a quarterly basis to really learn from other team members and maybe get some advice or suggestions on how to run their meeting or to run a meeting if you're having problems. Okay, so now let's talk about application. We kind of talked about the nitty-gritty details, kind of the supplies you're going to want to have for a meeting, a space, but how does it apply to your community? Again, it's going to be different for every single community. So these are some important questions to consider as you're trying to make your team robust, to make your initiatives have the biggest impact, and really engaging the correct people and having the right people at the table. So when you think about your community, think about your assets, those things that you think are valuable to your community, maybe some opportunities, some room for growth that you may see in your community, and kind of, you know, what do you think are realistic ways to achieve things in your community. First, you're going to want to think about, what do you want to achieve? What is your purpose of being involved with this initiative, and why do you want to be involved? What are you trying to accomplish with We Thrive? Secondly, you're going to want to think about what sectors should be engaged to achieve that goal. As you can see here to the right, we call this a sector wheel, and this just shows a bunch of different potential sectors within a community that could be utilized and may have the capacity to make your initiative all across the community and really make it robust and special. So it's a little hard to see here, but you can see that the wheel encompasses schools, senior citizens, service organizations, so that can be nonprofit organizations, things like that. Parents could engage PTOs at schools or just other parents or individuals within the community. Social services, again, very similar to service organizations. So along with your police and fire and EMTs, you might have some community organization, maybe some grassroots committees, things like that. Also law enforcement, government, so having council or trustees involved is really helpful. Businesses, a lot of times businesses are required to do community outreach, so you can find a way for that to be mutually beneficial. Religious institutions, so your faith-based organizations, your churches, synagogues, mosques, things like that. Medical, getting hospitals and the healthcare system involved. Youth, we all know youth is the future of our communities, and so we really want them to be involved because they have a different perspective. And then lastly, there's media. So media can really help spread your word, can highlight great things going on in the community, and get more people involved. And so looking at the sector wheel, it kind of translates nicely to the next question of who should be engaged. based on what you want to achieve, what sectors you want to represent, you'll want to identify who should be engaged. And so you might have personal or professional connections to community agencies or partnerships that may fit somewhere in this sector wheel, but you really want to think about who should I engage to really get the best bang for my buck, if you will. How can I engage people to really get the best outcomes for our organization? And again, as I mentioned before, you want this to be mutually beneficial for everyone involved. So for instance, if there's a Boy Scout group or Girl Scout group, such as a service organization, they might want to be involved for some volunteer opportunities. That doesn't mean that they have to come to every single meeting, but if there's a way for them to fit into a specific project, like labeling storm drains or increasing recycling within a community, that can really check off an action item and really includes other assets and sectors of the community. You're also going to want to consider, where's a central meeting space? Where are we going to meet? Where should these be located? A lot of times it works to have them at a municipal building, especially if council's already involved, but it could be the library, it could be a coffee shop, a community center, even a police station, any place where that's centrally located that people can go and it can be available for scheduling these types of meetings. And then you're also going to want to consider what time would work best. We talked about before about evening meetings versus daytime meetings, and again, based on who's involved or who you want to be involved, you're really going to want to consider the time frame. Typically, meetings last anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. If you feel like you can get everything done within an hour, that might be best, but if you feel like you're always scrambling to wrap up the meeting at the end, maybe schedule them for an hour and a half. If you have a specific meeting that's going to be really busy with a lot of content, you might even want to make it longer than that. Again, this can vary depending on community and depending on the meeting and subject at hand. So once you think about all these questions, you can start to build that team and build that momentum to have a good meeting place at a central location, at a specific time, with the people you want to engage and the people you want represented and guiding you along. So in summary, meeting facilitation should be inclusive and collaborative. We can't do anything on our own. And the more relationships we build, the more partners we engage and people we get invested in a community and in a project, the better the project is going to be. Working together always is better than working alone. Meeting facilitation also shapes leaderships and partnerships. So it can really build the leadership within a team, really allow people to grow and build their skill set to facilitate meetings, but it can also shape partnerships and bringing different people to the table who may not have been involved before. Good meeting facilitation can also be used to guide decisions and activities. So if everything's running smoothly, if people are being included, their voices are being heard, it's really going to guide the decisions and activities that that team is going to work on. Again, being organized is going to be the most effective because it's going to keep everybody on task and know what's going on. And finally, meeting facilitation communicates the goals to the community. Again, if you're organized, if everybody is communicating with one another and working together, doing their follow-up, reading the meeting minutes, all these great things, it's really going to show in the project and the work that you do in your community. If people know that We Thrive happens on the third Monday of the month and people are go-getters and the meetings are posted, they can really see that, wow, this is a worthwhile initiative that I might want to get involved in. It shows that it's not just a name, that there's actually people and projects tied to it, and it really communicates your goals to the community to continue to recruit members and get that buy-in for the initiative. So with that, I will take some questions. Again, you can type them in the chat box to the left, or you can unmute yourself and you can ask me. So we'll just take a couple moments for any questions. All right, well, it looks like there's not any questions. That's totally fine. Here's my contact information. If you would like to reach out to me with any questions, my email is there at the bottom, hannah.smith@hamilton-co.org. Feel free to email me or give me a call if you have any questions about meeting facilitation. I hope you found it worthwhile, and I hope you learned something new. Thank you so much for your time.